Hey everyone, this is Mason, and you're listening to HERBRally. Although today's episode is actually an episode from a podcast called Herbology Talk, and this is hosted by Mary Colvin. So I was just interviewed on Mary's show about a week or so ago, and that's actually what today's episode is. So feel free to hit pause and go and subscribe to Herbology Talk on your podcast player of choice. And in this conversation, we chat about my journey into herbalism, some of my personal inspiration and challenges. We also talk about how HerbRally has evolved over the years. We also chat a little bit about social media and website challenges. It was really great to have a chat with Mary. We both got to hang out a little bit at last year's Great Lakes Herb Fair. Apparently, we're both going to be going next year, so it'll be nice to hang out with her even more. Also, stay tuned to our show, the Herbalist Hour. I'll be interviewing Mary Colvin somewhat soon, actually. So, like I said, stay tuned for that episode in the next couple months. So, along with Herbology Talk, Mary is also the author to an upcoming book called The Herbalist's Guide: How to Build and Use Your Own Apothecary. This is going to be published by Skyhorse Publishing, so I will leave a link to the book page from Skyhorse Publishing in the podcast show notes if you'd like to learn more and even do a pre-order. So thanks so much to Mary for sharing this episode with the HerbRally audience. Really, really appreciate that. Thanks to y'all for listening, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Take care.
You are listening to Herbology Talk, where we talk about everything to do with the training and study processes in herbalism. Sit back and enjoy as we discuss the highs and lows of this journey with other students or introduce teachers, schools, and additional resources for our listeners bi-weekly. I am your host, Mary Colvin, registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild, clinical herbalist and owner of Ancestral Herbology. And welcome to episode 14 of Herbology Talk, where I have the pleasure of speaking to one of my favorite herbalism advocates, Mason Hutchison. Mason is a founder of HERBRally, an herbal community hub that promotes herbalism education and events. He is also the host of The Herbalist Hour, a podcast and YouTube series where he interviews a diverse array of plant people. Mason is a husband, proud father, avid chess, basketball and ping pong player, spring water gatherer, and an enthusiast in the art of frugal nutrition. And with that introduction, I want to welcome you to Herbology Talk, Mason.
Thanks so much for having me, Mary.
Oh, I know. I am really excited to have you here because we have not had a chance until now to sit down and have a discussion. So I'm very glad we both could set aside some time today. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'm actually looking forward to interviewing you on the Herbalist Hour come April.
Yes, that'll be a new experience for me. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Good time.
Yeah, and I have been a follower of HERBRally since the beginning. So what has that been? About 6 years? 7 years? Something like that?
Yes. I started HERBRally in May of 2015. So it's an 8-year-old now.
Oh gosh, has it been that long? Okay, so I've been a follower that long. And
that's wild.
As training opportunities go, you offer a lot of resources for students of herbalism. So with that, could you give us a little background of your own training and where did your passion for herbalism originate?
Definitely. Yeah. So, well, I would say I've taken a couple herbalism apprenticeships, but kind of backing up a little bit. Yeah. How I first got into herbalism was I really got into nutrition, I want to say in my late teens, early 20s. And that was because I learned that what you put in your body has a direct effect on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I was perpetually, gloomy and down throughout my younger years. And I was just trying lots of different things to, just increase my mood and just feel better as a human. So I developed a strong passion for, well, let's say spirituality and self-help type books, but also I combined that with my love of food and nutrition. Also, I started getting into like working out, lifting weights and that kind of thing. But I remember I want to say maybe I was like 19, 20-ish, my good friend who I was also learning nutrition with and lifting weights with and stuff like that, we started learning about traditional Chinese medicine. So yeah, I remember I had this one book by Ron Teagarden back in the day. I want to say it was called Tonic Herbs or something like that. And
okay.
We just kind of fell headfirst into the love of traditional Chinese medicine, which then we just started buying all these herbs from the herb shops. And it just kind of, grew from there. My love of herbs and herbalism grew from there.
Oh, that's great. And you've gone to a couple schools too, didn't you?
Exactly. Yeah. So later on, when I decided to make herbalism my path, if you will, I got a job at Mountain Rose Herbs. That was back in, I want to say, 2011, and I thinking I should take this whole herbalism thing seriously. So I saw a pamphlet for the Columbine School of Botanical Studies in the break room. And I was like, well, this looks interesting. I was used to, learning about plants, books, and cut and sifted dried herbs, but going out in the woods did sound appealing to me. So I ended up studying with Howie Brownstein and Stephen Yeager
Oh,
at the Columbine
great.
School of Botanical
Yeah.
Studies. Yep, yep. And then a few years later, I went and studied at the Arctos School of Herbal and Botanical Medicine in Portland, Oregon, with Missy Rose and Grady Proctor.
Oh, wonderful. So, what
Mhm.
would you say with all of that training that you've had, and you've had some really great teachers too? What would you say was the inspiration for the continuation of your studies?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I want to say when I first started learning herbs, it started like as I was mentioning, like with books and that kind of thing, and then I went on a plant walk, and I was like, "Ooh, this
That
is
did
this
it.
is a lot of fun." Yeah, I like me a good plant walk, which is, as you know, Mary, is more like a plant shuffle, as they call it, where you just kind of talk about one herb for 15 minutes and then shuffle over to the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I would just say it was just kind of this like growing love of being around the plants, but not only that, but around the plant people. When
Mm-hmm.
you're in a school like that, and when you're in that environment, when you're keying out plants in the Western Cascades for hours on end, you just develop the love of being out there, especially with the other plant nerds like yourself. So yeah,
Yes.
I would say after finishing Columbines back in 2012, a few years passed, and I was like, you know what? I really missed that experience. I would say half the reason was just because I wanted to solidify my herbal knowledge. As Howie Brownstein says, repetition's the key to mastery. So I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to repeat some of the things I learned, but really I just wanted to be surrounded by those people again.
Yeah, I found that, I think, at a lot of the different herbal conferences too, you know,
Good point.
during my studies, and it just being around people that think alike, and think that want to do the same thing and love plants as much as you do. Yeah, that's a
Absolutely.
great experience. And
Yeah, and I love the herb events as well.
oh, absolutely. And you could tell with
Yeah,
HERBRally.
right. That's what we're all about.
That's right. And what did you imagine when you first got into training in herbalism? What did you imagine that you would be doing with that knowledge?
That is such a good question. You know, so when I first, as I was mentioning, I was into nutrition. I had the goal to be a dietitian eventually. In fact, I worked at the
Oh,
hospital as a dietitian aide. And I had this probably naive or grandiose vision of changing the way hospitals view nutrition and dietetics, because I was a blossoming hippie, and yeah, serving, you want to say, like vanilla milkshakes to sick patients.
yeah.
Definitely, I didn't feel like it was like an appropriate way to be, approaching nutrition in the hospital realm. But so that's all to say, I really thought that I was going to be a dietitian. So it's funny later on to not even remotely consider being in the clinical herbal sphere, because I feel like a lot of the clinical herbalists I know are really, nutritionists at heart. So yeah, it's a good question. Early on, I don't think I really knew, but I lived my life by this philosophy, like following the golden thread, aka just following your heart, following what your soul's telling you to do. And I feel
Oh,
like
that's a great way
one
to do
step,
it.
and one step leads to the next. And then I do remember eventually I started having a vision of how I would be in the herbal world, in the herbal community, and that was kind of more as like a connector of people to people and plants to people and that kind of thing. So I eventually that vision came to me, and I started pursuing it more gung ho. But
Hmm.
early on, yeah, I thought maybe I'd be a clinical herbalist, but it took a while to kind of get there.
Yeah, I wasn't right off the bat. I didn't until I met Margie Flint and Matthew Wood. And it
Hmm.
was, she had a clinical, it's like a week long training where you can sit down with them in the consultation. And I met Margie at an herbal conference,
Hmm.
and she told me about it. And I said, I think I want to give that a try, and drove 11 hours out there, and it was
Wow.
when I sat down with, I was I just knew, I just knew this is what I was supposed to be doing. And that was an aha moment for me. So
It really does depend on like, yeah, I guess what teacher you might have in that moment in time, and yeah, the inspiration. And I presume you said, was it Margie Flint and was it Matthew Wood?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I bet you those two were just very inspirational and encouraging for you to go along that path.
Absolutely. And Kay Parent, I don't know if you've ever met Kay. She was
No.
there as well. And she was so good and just so, feeling and watching each one of them ask the different questions and how they came up upon their own, formulas and what they want to do. It was riveting because, everybody's different. And that's when I
Yes.
realized I don't have to follow one in particular. I could just be me and develop my own practice. And yeah, I loved every bit of it. So, and part of this, I wanted to have this podcast because there's so many people that are just beginning into herbalism, or maybe they've, gone along, done some self-study, or maybe they've just finished a school and they don't know where to go next, or, what might inspire them to keep going. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with this as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Podcasts were very instrumental in my early days as a young herbalist as well, because I used to listen to John Gallagher has a show currently,
Yeah.
but it's Herb Mentor Radio, very influential on me in my early days as an herbalist for sure. And so, yeah, very inspired learning about all the different herbalists out there, as you say, doing their own thing.
Yeah. And, well, as you're training, did you come across any challenges that you faced?
Ooh, so like as I was in herb school, or how do you
Yeah.
mean?
Or any point during your training, did you come up with any challenges that made it hard for you to
Ah,
train?
yes. Okay. So I was just actually interviewing Howie Brownstein, Stephen Yeager, Leah Kays, and Alex Payne. So they're all affiliated and associated with the Columbine School of Botanical Studies. So I just interviewed 4 people for my show, so Howie's celebrating his 40th anniversary of
Oh,
Columbine, which is
wonderful.
quite the incredible milestone. But that's all to say, I remember we started talking about how in their school they have a heavy emphasis on botany, keying out plants, ecology,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And I've never fancied myself particularly like a sciencey type person. Like I like science, I love science, I believe in science, of course, but like I never felt like it was one of my fortes. So getting into herbalism, I was a little intimidated by the whole science aspect and the botany aspect. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing was, as I already said, repetition is the key to mastery. We would go out there a couple times per week, over and over and over again, keying these plants using the Hitchcock, the Flora of the Pacific Northwest book.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it just kind of became second nature. But I would definitely deem that early on as like an incredible challenge for me. Not just like the skill of it, but the just the mindset of being allowing myself to know that I actually can do this.
That is a good point because a lot of people see that and they're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to grow any plants or be able to identify them. I got a black thumb or whatever. But
Hmm.
if they learn the skill, they can. And
Yes.
now you met my youngest daughter at the
Oh,
Great
at the
Lakes
Great Lakes
Herb
Herb Fair?
Fair. Yeah. Did you know
Yep.
she's actually going to college for ecology?
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So she does like the science aspect of it. So I
Okay.
thought that was
Comes
funny when you're
naturally to
saying
her.
that. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So what did you do once you finished your schooling and apprenticeships? I know you mentioned going into Mountain Rose Herbs. Did you do that immediately or was that sometime in between?
Yeah, it was all kind of simultaneous,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
So I left the hospital for a job at Mountain Rose Herbs because I was making major life changes at that moment in time, and so yeah, I basically quit my cush dietitian aide job with all my friends and great health benefits of the hospital to go work for this herb company, and at the same time I was beginning herb school, and so it kind of all paralleled each other all at the same time. But it really did help me in my job because um, I would say being able to I was doing the events for Mountain Rose Herbs for over a decade, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to organize these events and then attend these events, it allowed me to speak a language like herbalists speak. You know what I mean? So I would
Yeah.
say it was kind of a perfect gig for me while going to herb school and even after herb school.
And what a great opportunity, really, to work for Mountain and see the behind the scenes too.
Yeah,
And, how all that goes. People don't get the opportunity to do that either. They're just ordering the herbs and they don't understand like how it's done or where they come from. And yeah, you had a great opportunity there too.
yeah, I felt very blessed to be in that position for sure.
So, how did the idea of HerbRally begin? How did you go from working at Mountain Rose Herbs and beginning HerbRally?
Yeah, so 2015, I guess that would have been about 4 years after working at Mountain Reserves. Like I said, I was the events person. So I was really interested in the idea of finding a website where they would list, because that's what HerbRally started out, was listing the herbalism events in the herbal community. So I was interested in finding a website that lists, like, say, the plant walks to the little talks at the local public library, not just the big herb conferences. I wanted to know all the different herbalism events happening because that was my job at Mountain Rose Herbs, was the events person. So I was just really interested in finding something like that. And lo and behold, there was not a website like that existed.
No, there wasn't.
So right. So I thought, I guess I could create this. And so, yeah, so that's kind of how it started, was just me kind of creating the website that I wished to see exist in the world.
And like I said, early on, I've been a follower since you did that. And, it was just a nice list of all the different events. And that was very beneficial, because you really didn't have many places, like you said. There really wasn't any place to go and find out where you can go get some more training or go see some other herbalist or just be around herbal people, plant people.
And I was attending these events in my local area, so I knew that others could benefit from it as well. Like I remember early on, I went on a plant walk with Keith Hess at Mount Pisgah Arboretum in Eugene. I was like, this was life changing for me, and so I was hoping to provide that service to others so they could find herbalism in your neck of the woods, as we like to say.
Absolutely. And when I first began, I couldn't find anybody around here that taught it or that was an herbalist. They're just, I'm in a rural area in northern Ohio, and I just didn't know anybody. And after I went to school, and it wasn't until I started going to an herb conference, and I think it was the Northeast Women's Herbal Conference in New Hampshire is the first one. And that's, of course, where I met Margie. But, then the Great Lakes Herb Fair started up. And that was my go-to place. That was where I'm finding people close to me, that I didn't have that opportunity. So finding these places, for people that are in areas they don't have the connection, it's great. It's great what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, and you say Ohio, and it's so funny to me now because I'm like, there's so many herbalists and so much herbalism in Ohio, but I could see how that would feel isolating if you feel like you're the only one.
Yeah, and of course you got to remember when I started, it was back in 2008. There really wasn't many online herbal, and social media was just starting off at that time.
Yep,
so
I think that's when I started my Facebook account, 2008.
Yeah, same. So, it was very difficult finding, there were no schools around here. I had to go to a school that was in Utah. I found one that had a correspondence course. And
oh, wow. Was that Stephen Horn?
No, that was the School of Natural Healing, Dr. Christopher's.
Oh, right.
And that was the only one that I could find, but I liked it because you could buy one class at a time. And, I was a young family and we needed to save the money and come up with the money before I could purchase a class. And it worked out. But what I found is, okay, I know I'm not done. This can't be all, there's got to be more to it than this. And yeah, so that's going to these conferences and finding more of these teachers. It was instrumental in my training.
Absolutely. And I'll shout out the Great Lakes Herb Fair too. Absolutely lovely event. I've been there twice now. And now that we live in Wisconsin, our goal is to go every year now.
Oh, I look forward to seeing you every year then.
Absolutely.
So, HerbRally really has evolved over the years. And you also have a schoolhouse now.
That's right.
How is that different from the other schools, and how has HerbRally changed over the years?
So, yeah, so we recently, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, added a component. It's a member area called the HerbRally Schoolhouse. And basically, we wanted to create an area where we could add a bunch of classes and just fun stuff for our members. Um, I've been telling people this lately. The HerbRally Schoolhouse to me is, if folks are enjoying HerbRally and they have the ability to help support our work, that would be a way to do it. It's $10 a month, and it's like it's really just our way to allow our community to give back to HerbRally. That said, there's a private member area in there. There's classes, like I said, there's videos, there's some other stuff going on in there. But yeah, really, it was just a way to help fund me and Amanda's business, because we both, Amanda, who's the co-owner of HerbRally, she's also my wife. We both quit Mountain Rose Herbs, and we're like, how are we going to make HerbRally a viable living wage? So the schoolhouse is just kind of one of those ways that we do that. But yeah, HerbRally has evolved a lot over the years. Besides the schoolhouse, we have a ton of free content. We have I want to say 80-ish monographs, and we add to that all the time. And then we've got over 700 podcast episodes. We've got over 400 YouTube videos, and those just keep growing. And what else do we have? Yeah, we list herbalism schools. Oh my gosh, I'm probably missing some stuff, but
it's a lot. It's done so much more.
It's grown a lot more. Exactly, it's grown a lot more than just listing events. We'll say that.
Yeah, and I actually put HerbRally as a resource in my book too, because
that is awesome.
I think that so many people just getting into herbalism can get so much benefit from what you offer too. And I think $10 a month.
Thank you so much for doing that, Mary.
Oh, absolutely. And $10 a month, that is really great price, especially if there's somebody that's, a little finance strapped, and that's really a great price to get the information.
Thanks. Yeah. And I want to say, in the schoolhouse, we probably currently have around 60 or 70 classes. These range anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 hours. So there's a whole gamut of subjects. And Amanda actually named it the schoolhouse because we wanted to be really cute and have like these different classrooms, like have like an old school schoolhouse type of vibe going.
Yeah.
So we're still building on top of that.
But your wife is amazing too. I love meeting her. She's a great person, and I can see her just. That's right. Yeah, she's very much a part of this too, and
absolutely.
Yeah,
I could not do this without her. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, before Amanda came along, everything was just very rudimentary, and the design wasn't nearly as good. And she does a lot of work for HerbRally.
And anybody going to the website, it is so visually appealing. And it's so easy to navigate too. I love your website, just to say.
I love hearing that, because we've had the same Squarespace template for years, and I would love to give it a refresh at some point. But yes, Amanda's given a lot of new graphics, and she's really beautified it quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm learning, because I have 2 websites now, and the second one, the first one is more about my consultations, my events, my articles. The second one, with the coming out of this book, is more for training and mentoring. So I'm trying to build that, and I have both of them are Squarespace, and boy, I'm learning a lot. But I'm trying to add the videos and there's so much to learn to do that. But I do like Squarespace. It is friendly to people that are technically challenged like myself.
Squarespace really allowed HerbRally to happen, because I had this whole idea when I first wanted to start HerbRally that it had to be this really robust, crazy tech website with like a rotating map of the earth where you zoom in on the map and everything, and you find events that way. And I was like, wait, I could just list these super simple on a Squarespace website. So I'm very grateful that Squarespace exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got the domain Herbalist Mentor, not
nice.
To be confused with Herb Mentor, but it worked for me because I'm an herbalist, I'm a mentor, and I want to mentor other herbalists. And,
that's right.
So that's the very first page that you come to. It says navigating the study of herbalism. So that's a phrase that I coined when I did a webinar for the American Herbalist Guild also. So I really feel like part of my destiny and part of my path is to reach out to a lot of people that never thought about getting into herbalism, and kind of helping
I
them
love it.
move through the the beginning phases and that, which is a lot of my book. But yeah, the
And the book
website
is
is good.
Herbalist Mentor, right? Or
No,
am I
the
getting that
book
one?
is called The Herbalist Guide, and that's how to build and use your own apothecary. So I give
Gotcha.
them the basics, but more than some other books give. I'm including some of the legalities of herbalism. I'm
Mm,
including energetics, and there's a lot of exercises in there. So there's hands-on training in this book.
that's
And
awesome.
as they do all the exercises, they're really getting a better chance to connect to the plants, and they're getting the experience to work with them, and they're understanding the taste and understanding the qualities of the herbs and how to combine the medicinal actions and the energetics, to choose the right
Mm,
herb. And if they finish all those exercises by the end of the book, they built their apothecary. But
amazing. When is that being released again?
that is coming out May 7th, and they are taking
Ooh,
pre-orders
sweet.
right now, and it's with Skyhorse Publishing.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it, and I've already started getting some reviews, so I'm really excited.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you are an enthusiast in the art of frugal nutrition. So what exactly is frugal nutrition?
I know it's kind of a weird term, but I love it because it combines two of my favorite subjects, which is uh, eating and nutrition and not spending money. So,
I
uh,
love it. Love it.
so yeah, so I would just say it's basically how to eat a nutritious diet without spending a whole lot of money, because I feel like there's this misconception that eating healthy has to be expensive when I don't think that's necessarily the truth. I think sometimes that might be the case. But the goal with that, so we created a course called The Art of Frugal Nutrition, and the goal with it, and it's free. You can sign up for it free. But the goal with the course is to teach people how to eat on a budget, nutritious food. So we've got fermentation in there. We've got Bev and Claire taught. So Kirsten Shockey taught fermentation. Bev and Claire taught the Spice Apothecary. We got Jade Alejandro. She teaches bone broth. We actually have a dumpster diving module with my good friend Giuseppe Spadafora. Shayna Lippner Grover teaches Eat Your Weeds. Oh, and shoot, I think I'm missing. Oh yeah, Bridget Doherty just taught our most recent one, which is um, nourishing herbal infusions, which I think everyone should be drinking nourishing herbal infusions,
Yes.
and it's just another great way to get a lot of nourishment without spending a whole lot of money. So that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. And we have a lot of plans to add more stuff, more content to that free course. It's been kind of on hiatus due to just juggling a lot of other HerbRally things lately, but yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
I love that. I love the basis of that too, because there's so many people that think they have to spend so much money and they have to buy all the organics, and everything is so expensive right now to begin with, and it seems like the healthier food is more expensive. So helping people to eat healthier on a lower budget is much needed.
Yes, and I get so fired up like talking about
I
it.
bet.
I have so many ideas for this for the modules, and again, it's kind of like HerbRally. I waited forever to create HerbRally. It lived in my head for probably a year or
Mm-hmm.
more, and frugal nutrition is no different. I've had this concept for quite some time, and I thought I was going to write a book about it. But then I realized, well, we have the internet, we have video, and I know I have a lot of relationships with cool herbalists and nutritionists. They could help me create this little online module. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a book. Maybe someday it will be, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you see that growing?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. As far as like membership goes, or as
Yeah.
far as like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've recently started putting some of the videos on YouTube to help bring awareness to it, and that
Great.
has helped out a lot. So I would say maybe I get 2 or 3 signups per week. We've had I want to say 300-ish people sign up for it since we launched it.
So did that take a learning curve for you on social media?
As far as like how to use it,
Mm-hmm.
I I would say yes, but then so I was mentioning I was the events person at Mountain Rose Herbs
Mm-hmm.
for a decade. So that meant I was in the marketing department. So I was
Oh, so you
I
have
was
a lot of
around that. Yeah, exactly. I was just immersed in that whole marketing type of world. So definitely did have a learning curve early on, but then it just became kind of second nature.
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of pushed into this a little bit more, with trying to find a publisher for the book, right? So you
Totally.
have to build a platform, and they wanted
Totally.
me to do TikTok. And so I'm like, I am not dancing. I refuse, right? And they're
Yeah,
like, just be you, Mary. You don't have to.
right.
And, I came up with just a training and herbalism series where I kind of just guide them. Here, go learn this. Here, go learn, this subject. And there's an Ask the Herbalist series. And
Nice.
then I talk about some herbs. So I just watched that grow, but I still don't know how to edit some of the videos. It's all a learning curve for me. So I haven't not jumped into YouTube videos at all.
Yeah, and just to give more credit to Amanda, I mean, she again makes everything. She's a videographer, she's a graphic artist, she's a photographer. So yeah, she's able to do all that stuff super well. So that I do have that advantage
Yeah.
with Amanda. Yeah.
Well, you would think I would have an advantage with a husband who's IT.
Yeah, right.
It's just he doesn't help me because he's so busy doing his things, working full time, and he's a coach in volleyball too. So
Oh wow.
yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of time to help me get my website going and do the things that I need to do. So I've just been slowly teaching myself little by little, and it's coming along.
Yeah,
And I do get help
definitely.
when needed. I can
So is
reach
your
out.
TikTok audience growing then?
It is. But I found that I don't have. So I got like what 34,000
Holy crap.
on there.
That's amazing.
But that's really, with the publishers, that's not. They
Yeah.
told a lot of them told me she doesn't have a big enough platform. But
Oh wow.
I did. I got to tell you how I met my agent. I have a client that came to me, and she lives down the road. And here she's a WWE fighter, and so is her husband.
Oh my. It's amazing.
And she has a children's book that's coming out, and so she got. She has 500,000 followers on
Oh wow.
Instagram. Yeah, she's quite popular. But she introduced me to her agent, and her agent saw my book and said, "Yeah, I want to represent you." So I will have a little help from her,
That's
trying
awesome.
to
Yeah.
kind of introduce my book to her followers and that. So that does help. But yeah, it's a lot of work. Trying to
Yeah.
come up with what are you going to do a video on, or what is the subject.
It's a whole nother job.
It is. And I found, okay, between my clients and building this website and keeping up with the social media, and then I started writing articles for Plant Healer Quarterly Magazine, and just all this stuff comes at you. And I'm just, and then with my book, I was trying to get that finished and edited, and yeah, it's just I don't have enough time, it seems, to keep going with that TikTok. So you're supposed to put one up every day, but a lot of people
Yeah,
put
that's a lot.
multiple videos up a day, and I laugh at that because you're lucky if I can think of something, 2 times a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a lot of work, and it can be done, and I could probably increase the number of people that go to my TikTok and follow me by doing multiple videos a day, but it's just finding that time, I guess. But I'm sure you
For sure.
understand that with, the Herbalist Hour and with your website with HerbRally and that.
Yeah, that's one thing that's helped with us is just setting a cadence and sticking to it. I mean, when we made the decision to release 2 episodes of the Herbalist Hour per week, then it just became, okay, this is what we're doing, and now we have to stick to it. But eventually we might go down to 1 per week. But yeah, I like the idea of just setting a goal and then just trying as best as you can. But yeah, I don't think there's any need to be posting multiple times on TikTok. I mean, you already built quite the audience, so kudos to you. That's impressive.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully they can stay, you know,
Right.
stay there and not get rid of me following me.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, I always like to end the session here in the interview with maybe a little bit of advice. So what would your advice be for someone that is unsure of which school to choose for their education?
Oh, okay. That's an awesome question. I would say if you can afford it, try to attend one of the larger herb conferences, especially in your area if you can, because you might be able to get a sampling of a lot of different teachers and kind of decide who resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, kind of on the affordability range, if you're able to afford attending an in-person apprenticeship as opposed to an online herb school, at least at first, I would highly recommend trying to go to an in-person school, because just being out in the garden or out in the woods in that kind of environment is just so conducive to your learning as an herbalist. I
Mm-hmm.
do think that taking an online school is a great idea to do in addition to in person if you can help it, but obviously there's lots of great online options and everything. But yeah, I think one of the best things you could do is attend an herb conference and get a taste of a lot of different styles, because there's going to be teachers that are more clinical focused. There's going to be more like the plant spirit type of thing, and it's really
Absolutely.
like, you know what I mean? I would say,
Oh, yeah.
actually, even before that, if you're able to do some soul searching and find what it is you might even want to do in the herbal world,
Mm-hmm.
that could really help dictate which teacher or teachers you end up studying with. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Mary.
Actually, I always, with that navigating the study of herbalism, I
Yeah.
did that webinar with the American Herbalist Guild, and in that
Mm,
webinar, I speak about setting your goals, but I also talk about kind of the goal, finding out who you are and where you want to go with your training, because that's going to
hmm.
mean so much with the type of teacher you're going to be. And plus
Yeah.
you want to vibe with them. You don't want to
Yes.
be with someone who's all scientific and maybe you're more spiritual. And yet
Yeah.
that's not gonna go together. And I've seen that. And they don't understand the other. And it's always good too to get just a bunch of different type of teachers, and get a good
Yeah.
collection of them too. But yes, I absolutely agree with you on that.
Yeah, I was just, as I was mentioning, I was interviewing Howie and the Columbine's crew, and I remember right before I went to Columbine's, to get into the school, you have to be interviewed by them, and it's kind of an interview both ways. They're interviewing you, you're interviewing them, and
Hmm.
guess what? The interview lasts 3 hours long. Every person that goes to Columbine's gets a 3 hour interview, and that's so you could go very in depth to learn what their teaching methods are like. Now, I don't think a lot of herb schools do that long of a
Hmm.
interview process, but it was a really good. It was really enlightening to know what Howie and Stephen were teaching, and I was able to make the decision. If I'm going to be spending X number of dollars, I really want to know what I'm getting myself into.
Absolutely. And there's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that either. And I always say
totally.
to research every school that you're even
Mm,
thinking about,
absolutely.
just to research and find out what kind of coursework do they have,
Absolutely.
and maybe even reach out to some of their past students if you know of some.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, it's been so fun talking with you today, and
This has been great.
I think what you had to say, is really beneficial to those that are wanting to get into herbalism and continue their training. And it's always nice to get an idea of how other people, have got that training and moved along in their careers. So thank you so much, and I look forward to our discussion on the Herbalist
Yeah.
Hour in a
Oh,
couple of
I'm exactly.
months.
I'm excited. I'm excited to get to know you and your path more. So yeah, we're gonna turn the tables.
Oh, wonderful! Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks a lot, Mason.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you for listening to Herbology Talk this week. I am Mary Colvin, registered herbalist with the American Herbalist Guild, clinical herbalist and owner of Ancestral Herbology, formulator, speaker, and author. Whether you chose the plants or they chose you, join me and our next guest for a brand new episode in 2 weeks. Until then, keep your eyes in the books, your hands in the soil, your head in the knowledge, and your heart with the herbs.